Welcome to Money is Freedom, a podcast exploring how finance and freedom connect in our lives. Created from thoughtful research and narrated by Notebook LM AI, this series brings you clear, meaningful insights into finance and beyond.
In episode 45, we're exploring what working means for AI apps, based on insights from top VC firm Andreessen Horowitz from Silicon Valley. The generative AI era has ushered in a period where startups are growing faster than ever, often with fewer resources. We're seeing a significant shift in benchmarks for the average AI company. What was once considered best-in-class growth, like $1 million in ARR in the first year for enterprise startups, is now considered on the lower end. If you're interested in the cutting edge of tech and startup growth, tune in to understand why there's never been a better time to build an application layer software company. Let's dive in.
All right, let's dive in. There's this question that feels really central right now, doesn't it? What does working actually mean for a startup today? Especially, with AI everywhere. How much has the game really changed?
Oh, definitely. It's more than just a feeling. The traditional signals, what we used to look for, they seem to be shifting, and pretty dramatically. The old rules might just not cut it anymore.
Yeah, and we've actually got some really interesting data to look at here. We're digging into this piece from Andreessen Horowitz, A16's is. It's based on what they've seen across hundreds of companies over the last year and a half.
That's right. It's called What Working Means in the Era of AI Apps.
Uh-huh.
So it's grounded in, real-world observation, not just theory.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive anyway is to unpack what they found. What are the new benchmarks, especially for those app layer companies, the ones building the stuff you actually use? And what does it mean for you, right? Whether you're a founder or just trying to keep up with all this pace.
And it's pretty surprising stuff.
It really is. Prepare yourself, because the numbers aren't just a little faster. They suggest growth is accelerating significantly, and maybe not where you'd expect.
Okay, so maybe let's set the scene first. Before this whole AI wave really hit, there was a pretty common benchmark, wasn't there? For what, amazing looked like for an enterprise startup in its first 12 months after launch, or starting to charge money.
Yeah, absolutely. That magic number was often around $1 million in annual recurring revenue, $1 MARR. If you hit that in year one, you were basically considered top tier, best in class. It showed you really had something in the B2B world.
Right. A strong signal.
Yeah.
But for consumer companies, totally different story. Revenue was way down the road, maybe years later. The whole focus was just getting users, millions of them, tens of millions sometimes. Then you'd figure out how to make money, usually ads or something.
So that was the setup. $1 ARR for top enterprise, users first for consumer. Okay, so now we've got this A16's data. Last 18 months, hundreds of companies. What did they actually find? What's changed?
Well, the picture is, very different. Looking at the companies they know well, the numbers have just jumped.
Right, and this is where it gets really compelling. The median enterprise company in their data, it's not hitting $1 million ARR in year one. It's reaching over $2 million ARR. And get this, they're typically raising their Series A just 9 months after starting to monetize.
Just pause on that. The median. So the typical company in their sample is doing more than double what we used to call best in class just a few years back. Yeah. That's a huge acceleration, right?
And then the consumer side is even wilder. The median consumer AI companies in their data, they're actually doing better on early revenue. They're hitting something like $4.2 million in ARR in the first year and raising Series A even faster, maybe 8 months in.
So that journey, that $0 to $1 million ARR, which used to be the gold standard, it's now it's at the lower end for these AI companies that are getting traction in year one.
Okay. The speed is just undeniable. Faster money, faster funding rounds. But why? What is it about AI specifically that lets companies accelerate like this?
Yeah, that's the key question, is there? Probably a few things working together. First, AI can let you iterate on the product incredibly quickly. Improving the core function might just mean training a new model or plugging in a better one that can be way faster than rewriting big chunks of traditional code.
Right, faster building.
And second, these AI models can often deliver value almost immediately, right out of the box. That initial hook for users or businesses, it can happen faster, less setup, maybe less configuration than older software needed.
Okay, faster value delivery too.
And then there's just, massive market pull right now. People and companies are actively looking for AI tools. The demand is just huge.
So faster building, faster value, hot market. Makes sense. And the article hints that this speed, this velocity, it's becoming a competitive edge itself, like a moat. How does speed work as a moat here?
Well, it's more than just being first, right? Speed lets you iterate on your models, your features, faster than others. And if your AI learns from user data, well, moving fast means you potentially get more data sooner. And that creates this cycle, right? Better data, better models, better product, more users, more data.
Ah, the flywheel effect. So the gap widens because you're learning faster.
Exactly. It can create a lead that slower companies just find really hard to close.
Okay, that makes sense. Speed to launch, but also speed to improve. So faster revenue, faster rounds, speed as a moat. That sounds like the early game plan. But the article also throws in a pretty important dose of caution, doesn't it? It's not all about that top-line growth, especially later on.
Oh, absolutely. Crucial point. That initial speed, that velocity, that gets you noticed, gets you that fast Series A. But when investors look at later rounds, Series B, Series C, they're going to dig into the fundamentals, the traditional software metrics.
Okay, so things like usage. How much are people actually using it? Engagement and critically, retention, right? Are they sticking around? You can't just buy that initial revenue spike and expect it to last.
Precisely. Yeah. If that early surge is just, burning cash unsustainably, or if users aren't really engaged or sticking around long term, it won't pass the test later. The speed proves you can get started, but retention proves you built something people actually value over time, something sticky.
And how does AI itself affect those metrics? Does having an AI feature automatically make retention better or worse? And how do you even measure engagement with some of these generative AI tools? You might use them intensely for a short burst, then not for a while.
Yeah, that's definitely something the whole ecosystem is still figuring out. But what the data seems to hint at is, for the users who do convert to paying for generative AI apps, their retention often looks pretty similar to older pre-AI consumer apps.
Oh, interesting. So once they pay, they stick.
It seems like it, yeah. The challenge might be getting them to pay in the first place. That free-to-paid conversion could be trickier. But if they do convert, they seem quite sticky, which pushes companies to really focus on proving that value clearly and consistently to the paying users.
Okay, let's circle back to that point that really jumped out earlier, the consumer AI companies. Making serious money really fast. That just completely flips the old script, doesn't it? Build users for years, then worry about money.
Totally clips it, yeah.
Yeah.
The data shows the median revenue for B2C AI is actually higher than B2B early on, based on their sample. And the way they grow can look different too.
How so? Different shape.
Well, think about it. A lot of these consumer AI companies raise big money, specifically to train their own models, right? Their own large AI models. And what they often see is a huge jump in revenue right after they release a new, better model.
Ah, so it's not a smooth curve, more like steps. Big jump when the model gets better.
Kind of, yeah. More like step function growth. Tied to those big R&D moments, you get a spike, maybe things level off a bit, then another spike with the next big model improvement. And like we said, maybe converting free users is tough, but those paying users seem to stick around.
Okay, so the big picture takeaway from this A16's data seems pretty loud and clear. Startups are working faster, much faster. Businesses, consumers, they seem genuinely willing to pay for new AI-powered stuff right from the start.
Yeah, and based on this, it feels like a really dynamic time to be building an application layer software company. The potential for just really rapid traction, significant early revenue, seems kind of unprecedented.
Which is, well, it's exciting if you're a founder with a great idea, but also probably pretty daunting because the bar for showing that early traction, it just moved way, way higher.
Yeah.
And the time you have to prove it before that Series A, it seems shorter.
Speed is definitely table stakes now, yeah. But like we talked about, it's not the only thing, not for the long haul. You absolutely need that underlying product strength, that stickiness to back up the early speed.
Right. So just to quickly recap what we pulled from this deep dive into the A16Z's numbers, that old $1 ARR year one benchmark, kind of blown away. Median AI companies are hitting over $2 for enterprise and an amazing $4.02 for consumer. Fundraising, like Series A, is happening way faster, 8-9 months maybe.
Yeah, and consumer AI is a real revenue story now, right from the beginning. Changes that whole sector.
But crucially, while that speed and early cash get you in the game, maybe get you funded initially, the traditional metrics, usage, engagement, and especially retention, they are absolutely vital for later rounds, for actually building something that lasts. Speed gets you the meeting, quality keeps you going.
It really underlines it, doesn't it? The AI era isn't just faster, it's actually redefining what early success even looks like.
So thinking about that, this incredible speed, these new high benchmarks, this potential gap between the fast and the slow, it makes you wonder, what does all this velocity really mean for the whole startup world, beyond just getting funded faster? How does speed as a moat really change the fundamental game? Not just building, but competing, surviving in this AI age? Something to think about.